Hello friends, EJ here again from the back porch here in Greenville, Tennessee, and today I want to talk to you about folk art. Now, folk art may or may not fit within the realm of vintage or antique items, depending upon age. Some folk art is old, some is fairly modern, but it all has that folky type theme to it that is appreciated by those who appreciate old things. So you might ask, what is folk art? Folk art is art that is produced by people who are of folk tradition, or a better definition might be people who are not skilled or learned artists. That is kind of the definition of folk, is someone who is not skilled in a profession or not educated or of the elite. If you're not of the elite, then you are of the folk class, if you will. And that, of course, it doesn't make one person any better than the other, no matter what class you fall in. But these pieces are the types of arts that people who are interested in the folk life will produce. And I want to share a few of those with you that we have here at the back porch today. This is a piece of folk art black Americana. It is one of my more modern pieces. It is dated 1991 by an artist called by the name of Karen Germany of Dallas, Texas. And this particular piece is titled Jasmine by the artist. And a lot of times you'll see pieces like this that are related to a specific demographic or something. The artist often will depict the demographic by which they come. You'll often see these types of twig type seats and things like that that depict that sort of thing. Now, one of the older pieces that we have here is this particular framed art piece. This is a piece of framed folk art, and I would date this fairly early in the 20th century. The frame style could actually be considered maybe tramp art, which is a different definition. And I don't really know of a definition other than defining it to this style. I don't know where or why it got that name, but this is kind of the depiction of that. Beautiful oil painting, early, well done, beautiful example of folk art available here at the Back Porch Antiques. So folk art will travel in many different styles. This is a piece of folk art painting that depicts a hog, and it is on masonite wall boarding with probably house paint. And you see this a lot in that type of genre. Now, I'm not familiar with this artist. Maybe some of you folk art individuals may be, but we've had several pieces in our store like this of more familiar artists, people like Mose Tolliver, people who are well known in the folk art realm. Now, if you're not familiar with folk art, you might think that these pieces have no value. But many of these pieces sell well into the thousands of dollars because of their uniqueness, the story they tell, and those who love that genre will appreciate it. Sadly, and oftentimes, folk art artist usually becomes famous after they die, and their pieces acquire value after their demise, and that's a sad part of art. This is a pretty cool piece, a folk art piece. It is a railroad car, a locomotive. It's got a little engineer in here, and the wheels, and the steamer, and the bell, the whistle. It's a really cool piece. It's very much locomotive related, very folk artish. It's got some age to it. It does have spark plugs on it, but those spark plugs are old. I don't know exactly how old. I couldn't find any numbers on them to run the dates, but the fact that it's got the screw on top and it's as big around as it is, I imagine that's 1930s or earlier. So that would by itself date this piece. I believe it to be of that era, probably knocking on the door of 100 years old. A lot of times you will see things like this, homemade folk art log cabins, again depicting a time and place of someone's interest. And you got to love that when people are telling you the story. And that's what art is all about, especially your folk art. People are telling you the story of where they come from and what they've done by the things they allow you to see that they've made. It's come from their mind, their memory. A good piece of art is exactly that, a piece of time in someone's memory. And that's what you see here. And this is undoubtedly a depiction of someone's old home place. This is another piece of Tramp art that we have here at the back porch. This is a little wall hanging box. It is dated 1918 and intricately done. It's a little bit different than what some people might consider folk art because it is technically Tramp art, but I believe it to be of that folk category of individuals who are not learned, who have a wonderful ability for producing art. Just appealing to the eye and has a great look at it. And again, available here at the back porch. So check out this dude. This is folk art, early, probably circa 1870s. And this was made to look like a Revolutionary War soldier. It's made out of yellow pine, probably southern by nature, but it is a whirligig. His arms are tied together right now so they don't flop, but he was intended to literally catch the wind and swing his arms. They were mechanical by nature, but a wonderful piece of art that somebody put together and put some time in. And things like this nowadays fetch a pretty hefty price because of their uniqueness and, again, where they come from, this being a pine piece, being obviously southern with that original good pine. This one is priced at $1,400 and is available here at the back porch, and he stands at about 5'7" or so. The last pieces I'd like to show you come from my collection, and these are two pieces of folk art paintings that I acquired from the collection of Reverend Jimmy Morrow. There is a link that will be added to the video that will tell you a little bit about Reverend Morrow, but he was a minister in Cott County down next to Newport, but he was also a folk art painter. He supported his ministry by painting these religiously themed, historical themes, considered himself also a historian. He was the minister of the Edwana Church of God in Del Rio, or I guess technically Cott County, not quite to Del Rio yet, but they were actually participants of serpent handling congregation, so they did practice that. So that's why a lot of his works, which are now really world-renowned, and they are represented in many museums locally and really across the nation, if not the world by now, but they depict this lifestyle that you see in southern Appalachian mountains. Each of them tell a story, some of them biblical by nature, some of them historical by nature. This one particularly tells a story of a gentleman being shot. The writing says, Spearhead, Kentucky, in a religious service. Cuba Ombury, I'm supposing that's the fellow's name, shot and killed Art Angel White while he was handling a rattlesnake. This painting was painted in July of 2011. Sadly, Reverend Morrow has since passed, and again, it's one of those things that his works have become valuable after his passing. One of the things that I find very interesting about Reverend Morrow is that upon his death, it was his request that his artwork be sold, and the funding from those sales would support his ministry to continue. And I can admire that. I can appreciate this. This is one that he did in 2013. This is quite the interesting piece for anybody who loves that sort of genre. Folk art piece. It tells the story of a moonshiner whose wife was expecting, and he had told his wife that should anything happen with her labor, or should she go in labor, have any issues, to step outside and fire the shotgun. He would hear the shotgun fire and call for help. Sadly, when she fired the shotgun, it struck her in the belly, and my understanding, one of the twins didn't make it. These are told as historical pieces, and this is a piece of art that depicts that very historical event. I imagine that these works of art will gain in value. Again, these are pieces of my personal collection, but I'm glad to share them with you. As far as value goes, the value is in the fact that this tradition and that this history needs to be told. As far as monetary value, really, it's hard telling what these will be worth. They're climbing every day in leaps and bounds in monetary value, but that's but a portion of what they're worth. But what is worth, after all, right? That's kind of the whole point of folk art. And there's a lot of it available here at the Back Porch Antiques, but the whole point about folk art is celebrating the artist, many of different demographics, many of different backgrounds that come from different places with different stories to tell. And you can find that through the pieces. One of my taglines that you'll often hear me use is that every piece has a memory. Every piece is a story. Every piece that you see tells a story. And with that, we'll see you next time. EJ from the back porch. Hey, by the way, like and follow our channel if you don't mind. See ya.